God says, "Listen closely, my beloved soul, because this moment is not random and it is not ordinary." There are countless paths you could have taken today, countless voices you could have listened to, yet something gently guided you here. Not forcefully, not loudly, but quietly, the way truth always arrives. This is not about urgency born from fear, this is about awareness born from love. Heaven is not chasing you, it is calling you, softly, patiently, exactly the way your heart understands best. You may think of time as something measured by minutes and hours, but God speaks of time differently. Divine time is measured by readiness, by alignment, by the moment when your inner world becomes still enough to hear what has always been waiting. When heaven says, "This moment matters," it is not because something will be taken away, but because something is ready to be revealed. That is why your spirit paused here even if your mind didn't fully understand why. There have been days when you felt distant, even while doing everything right. You showed up, you tried, you endured, yet something felt unfinished. That feeling was not emptiness, it was preparation. God never prepares a soul with silence unless something meaningful is approaching. The pauses in your life were not neglect, they were alignment. The delays were not rejection, they were protection. And the unanswered moments were not forgotten, they were being arranged. Right now, something unexpected is forming, not outside of you, but within you first. Change never begins in circumstances, it begins in perception. Before doors open, vision clears. Before answers arrive, understanding deepens. And before blessings appear in the visible world, peace is restored in the unseen place of the heart. This is where you are standing now, on the quiet edge between what was and what is becoming. God sees the weight you have carried without speaking about it. The responsibilities you accepted without complaint. The emotions you learned to hide so others would not worry. None of that was invisible. Heaven does not measure strength by noise, it measures it by endurance. Every time you chose patience over bitterness, every time you chose faith over frustration, something eternal was being built inside you. You may not realize it, but you are no longer the person you were during your hardest season. You have outgrown certain fears. You have softened where you once hardened. You have learned discernment where you once doubted yourself. That growth did not come from ease, it came from walking through uncertainty while still choosing hope. God honors that kind of growth, because it cannot be taught, it can only be lived. This message is not here to promise miracles in dramatic language. It is here to remind you of something deeper. Your life is not stalled, it is aligning. What looks quiet is not inactive. What looks slow is not late. And what looks uncertain is not without direction. Heaven does not rush, yet it never delays without purpose. Every step you have taken has been counted. Every choice has mattered more than you know. There are moments when the soul senses change before the mind can explain it. A calm that appears without reason. A clarity that arrives without effort. A release of tension you didn't know you were holding. If you are feeling any of this right now, it is because alignment has already begun. This is not the end of waiting, this is the beginning of understanding why you waited. God is not asking you to do more. He is asking you to trust deeper. Trust that what is forming will arrive at the right moment. Trust that what is leaving was never meant to stay. Trust that what is meant for you will recognize you without struggle. Divine connections do not need force, they find their way naturally when timing is complete. You are not behind. You are not late. You are not forgotten. You are exactly where your growth needed you to be so that what comes next can be sustained, not just received. Some blessings require maturity before manifestation. Some answers wait until the heart is ready to handle them with wisdom, not impulse. This moment is not about what you might miss if you scroll away. It is about what you gain when you stay present. Awareness changes everything. When you become aware of divine timing, impatience loses its power. When you become aware of purpose, comparison fades. And when you become aware that heaven is involved in your journey, fear no longer controls your decisions. God says, breathe. Let go of the pressure to figure everything out right now. Understanding unfolds in layers, not all at once. What you need today is not the full picture, it is peace with the next step. And peace is already being offered to you quietly, gently, without demand. You have been protected in ways you will only understand later. Redirected from paths that looked right but would have cost you peace. Delayed from opportunities that were not aligned with your true calling. Guarded from connections that would have drained your spirit instead of nourishing it. What felt like loss was often mercy in disguise. This is the beginning of awareness, not the conclusion of a story. Stay with this message. Not because of time, but because of truth. Something is unfolding, not suddenly in chaos, but steadily in clarity. And clarity always changes everything. God says, stay with me for a little longer, because what is unfolding now is deeper than a single moment and greater than a passing feeling. Many people hear words, but very few truly listen with their soul. You are here because your spirit recognized something familiar, something gentle, something true. That recognition itself is a sign of alignment. When heaven speaks, it does not shout to the ears, it resonates with the heart. There have been seasons when you questioned whether your patience was worth it, whether your silence was misunderstood, whether your kindness was taken for weakness. God saw every one of those moments. Nothing about your journey has been wasted. Even the pauses carried meaning. Even the detours carried protection. You were never standing still. You were being positioned carefully, quietly, intentionally. Right now, life may look the same on the surface, but beneath that surface, foundations are shifting. Internal shifts always come before external change. First, perspective changes. Then priorities adjust. Then clarity replaces confusion. Only after that does the visible world begin to respond. This is the order heaven follows, because anything built without inner alignment cannot last. You may have noticed that certain things no longer satisfy you the way they once did. Conversations feel shallow. Distractions feel empty. Old habits feel heavy. This is not loss of joy, this is growth. When the soul matures, it naturally releases what no longer matches its frequency. God does not remove things to punish you, He removes them to make space for what fits who you are becoming. There is a quiet strength forming inside you now. Not the kind that needs recognition, but the kind that remains steady even when unseen. This strength will carry you into what comes next. What is approaching your life will require discernment, not desperation. It will require calm confidence, not emotional urgency. That is why God has been refining you internally first. Sometimes you wonder why others seem to move faster while you feel delayed. What you cannot see is that speed and direction are not the same. Many move quickly in circles. You have been moving slowly. In alignment. Heaven values direction over speed every single time. What arrives late but aligned lasts longer than what arrives early but unstable. God says, you are not missing out on life, life is preparing to meet you at the right level. Certain blessings require a version of you that did not exist before. Certain connections require wisdom you had to grow into. Certain responsibilities require emotional maturity that only experience can build. You were not being kept away. You were being prepared. There were moments when you almost gave up, when you questioned whether your faith even mattered anymore. Yet something always pulled you back, not forcefully, but gently. That pull was not habit, it was grace. Grace does not demand perfection. It simply stays present until the heart is ready again. And your heart is ready now in ways it wasn't before. God never rushes revelation. Truth unfolds when the soul can receive it without fear. That is why clarity is beginning to settle inside you now. You are starting to see things without emotional fog. You are beginning to understand why certain doors never opened. You are recognizing why certain people faded away. This understanding is not painful anymore, it feels peaceful. That peace is confirmation. What is coming into your life will not arrive with chaos. It will arrive with calm recognition. It will feel natural, grounded, and right, not overwhelming or confusing. Divine alignment never forces urgency, it brings certainty. When something is meant for you, it does not demand chasing. It meets you where you are, already aware of your value. God says, trust the stillness you are feeling. Stillness is not stagnation. Stillness is balance. From balance, clear decisions emerge. From clarity, confident steps follow. You are being taught how to move forward. Without anxiety, how to act without fear, how to receive without guilt. These are lessons many never learn, yet they define lasting peace. Your heart has carried more than you let on. Responsibilities, expectations, emotional weight that no one saw. You did not complain. You adapted. You endured. Heaven honors quiet endurance deeply. Strength shown in silence carries more spiritual weight than strength displayed for applause. This is a season of internal agreement. Agreement between your mind and your heart. Agreement between your faith and your actions. Agreement between who you are and where you are going. When this agreement settles fully, external resistance weakens naturally. Life begins to cooperate instead of oppose. God says, nothing you have gone through disqualified you. In fact, it refined you. What once felt like limitation built discernment. What once felt like loss built depth. What once felt like isolation built self-understanding. You are not empty from these experiences, you are equipped. Do not underestimate the power of quiet alignment. When your inner world settles, the outer world responds without struggle. This is why God is drawing your attention inward first. Not to disconnect you from life, but to anchor you before the next phase unfolds. You are closer than you think. Not to an ending, but to a shift in how you experience life. The noise is fading because clarity is arriving. The pressure is easing because direction is forming. And the waiting is transforming into readiness. Stay present. Not because something will disappear if you leave, but because something meaningful is taking shape as you remain aware. This is not urgency. This is timing. And timing, when guided by heaven, never fails. God says, now that your heart has grown quiet, listen even more deeply, because silence is where understanding matures. Noise demands reaction, but stillness invites wisdom. You are not here because of urgency, you are here because your spirit is learning how to recognize truth without being pushed. This is how divine guidance works. It does not pressure. It aligns. There was a time when you needed signs to believe, reassurance to continue, confirmation to feel safe. That season has passed. You are now entering a phase where inner knowing replaces constant questioning. This is growth. When the soul stabilizes, it no longer needs constant external validation. It knows when something is right, not because it is loud, but because it feels steady. You may have noticed how your reactions have changed. Things that once disturbed you deeply now pass through you without controlling you. This is not numbness. This is emotional maturity. God has been teaching you how to respond instead of react, how to observe instead of absorb, how to remain centered even when circumstances fluctuate. These skills are essential for what comes next. There is a difference between waiting and preparing. Waiting feels heavy. Preparing feels purposeful. Even when nothing looks different, preparation is happening quietly within you. Your discernment is sharper. Your boundaries are clearer. Your values are more defined. You are not becoming harder. You are becoming more honest with yourself. God says, you have learned how to sit with uncertainty without losing faith. That is rare. Most people panic when clarity delays. You learned how to remain grounded when answers took time. This is why the next phase of your life will not overwhelm you. You have developed the internal stability required to hold responsibility without fear. Sometimes you replay moments from the past, not with regret anymore, but with understanding. You can see why certain things could not work then. You can see why certain choices felt right at the time, even if they led to lessons later. This perspective is healing. When the past stops hurting and starts teaching, it releases its grip. You are not the same person who began this journey. Your priorities have shifted. Your tolerance for confusion has reduced. Your desire for depth has increased. Superficial connections no longer satisfy you. You are drawn to honesty, calmness, and consistency. These preferences are not random, they are reflections of who you are becoming. God says, alignment does not rush. It settles. And once it settles, movement becomes effortless. You will notice that things start arranging themselves without force. Conversations open naturally. Opportunities appear without pressure. Decisions feel clearer, not because life became simple, but because you became centered. There is a quiet confidence forming in you now. Not arrogance, not pride, but grounded self-trust. You no longer need to explain yourself to everyone. You no longer feel obligated to prove your worth. This confidence allows you to choose wisely instead of quickly. And wisdom always outlasts impulse. You may wonder why some paths closed even when you tried your best. God says, protection often looks like disappointment in the moment. What you thought you lost was often something that would have drained you later. Not everything you wanted was meant to stay. Some things came only to teach you what you truly needed. Your heart has learned how to remain open without being naive. This balance is powerful. An open heart without discernment breaks easily. Discernment without an open heart hardens. You are learning how to hold both. This balance allows love, opportunity, and purpose to enter without chaos. God says, trust the pacing of your life. You are not behind. You are not late. You are moving at a speed that allows depth instead of damage. Many rush into experiences they are not prepared to hold. You are being introduced to things only when you can receive them with clarity. The unexpected that is approaching your life will not disrupt your peace. It will complement it. Divine additions do not create inner conflict. They confirm what already feels aligned. When something meant for you arrives, it will not confuse your values or destabilize your emotions. It will feel like recognition. There are lessons you once resisted that now feel obvious. Growth always works this way. What felt frustrating before becomes logical later. What felt unfair becomes protective. What felt like delay becomes design. This understanding is not intellectual, it is embodied. You feel it in how you move through life now. God says, the next chapter will require presence more than effort. Awareness more than anxiety. Trust more than control. You are being guided toward a way of living where struggle is not the primary teacher anymore. Peace is. When peace becomes the teacher, life feels lighter even when challenges exist. Notice how your inner dialogue has softened. You speak to yourself with more patience now. You allow mistakes without punishment. You give yourself space to learn. This self-compassion is not weakness, it is strength refined. Only those who understand growth allow themselves room to evolve. What once felt uncertain is beginning to make sense. Not all at once, but enough to feel steady. This steadiness is the foundation for everything that follows. Without it, even blessings feel overwhelming. With it, even challenges feel manageable. God says, remain attentive, not anxious. Aware, not alert. Receptive, not restless. You are not waiting for life to happen. Life is responding to the alignment you have already cultivated. And as this alignment deepens, movement will follow naturally. Stay grounded. Stay present. Not because time is running out, but because understanding is settling in. The unexpected will not arrive as chaos. It will arrive as clarity in motion. God says, now everything becomes still. Not because nothing is happening, but because what needed to move has already aligned. There is a moment before every major shift where life grows quiet, almost gentle, as if the universe itself is taking a breath. This is that moment. Do not confuse calm with absence. Calm is often the final confirmation. You have crossed a threshold without realizing it. The old version of you no longer fits the life that is forming ahead. This is why certain habits fell away naturally. This is why some conversations stopped feeling necessary. This is why your patience grew while your tolerance for confusion shrank. These are signs of internal transition, not loss. God says, what is approaching you will not require force, begging, or chasing. It will recognize you the way truth recognizes honesty. You will not need to convince it to stay. You will not need to over-explain yourself. What belongs to alignment arrives without resistance. There were times you questioned whether staying quiet was a mistake, whether stepping back meant falling behind. It did not. Silence taught you discernment. Distance taught you clarity. Stillness taught you strength. These lessons were not delays, they were preparations. You are no longer being shaped by fear of missing out. You are being guided by understanding of what truly fits. That shift alone changes everything. When fear stops leading, peace starts choosing. And peace always chooses correctly. God says, the unexpected event you sensed earlier will not shake your foundation. It will rest on it. You have already built the emotional and spiritual stability required to receive without panic. This is why it could not arrive earlier. Blessings delivered before readiness feel heavy. Delivered after readiness feel natural. You may notice subtle changes first. A conversation that lands differently. A realization that settles instead of stings. A door opening quietly rather than dramatically. These are not small things. These are indicators that life is moving with you, not against you. There is a maturity now in how you perceive timing. You no longer demand immediate answers. You allow unfolding. This patience is not passive, it is grounded. You trust without disconnecting. You remain alert without being anxious. This balance allows guidance to reach you clearly. God says, trust what feels steady. Not what excites briefly. Not what promises quickly. Steadiness is the signature of alignment. Anything meant for you will not rush your spirit or pressure your decisions. It will allow you to remain yourself. The version of you that once tried to fix everything has softened. You understand now that not everything needs fixing, some things need space. Space allows truth to surface without conflict. Space allows clarity without confrontation. Space allows growth without exhaustion. You are stepping into a phase where effort is replaced by cooperation. You will notice that things begin to meet you halfway. Not because life became easier, but because resistance dissolved. When inner conflict ends, external friction reduces. God says, your intuition is clearer now because you stopped arguing with it. You learned to listen without demanding proof. This trust strengthens guidance. The more you honor inner knowing, the more precise it becomes. What arrives next will not pull you away from yourself. It will feel familiar in a grounding way, not nostalgic, but resonant. You will recognize it not by intensity, but by ease. Ease is not lack of depth. Ease is alignment functioning correctly. There is no need to announce this shift to everyone. Growth does not need witnesses to be valid. Some things settle quietly before they become visible. This quiet phase protects what is forming. God says, remain present. Not because time is running out, but because presence allows you to receive fully. When you are present, you notice opportunities before they pass. You respond wisely instead of impulsively. You move deliberately instead of reactively. This is not the end of a message. This is the beginning of application. Everything you absorbed now needs space to integrate. Let it settle into how you think, choose, and respond. Transformation is not dramatic, it is consistent. And now, as this message completes its cycle, God says one final thing. You were not meant to hear this alone. Not because others need convincing, but because clarity multiplies when shared. Reflection deepens when spoken. Commitment strengthens when acknowledged. If this message brought clarity instead of fear, peace instead of pressure, and understanding instead of confusion, then honor it with action. Like this video to acknowledge the shift you felt. Comment what resonated with you, even one word is enough. Share this with someone who has been quietly searching for direction. And subscribe, not out of habit, but because this channel speaks when your spirit is ready to listen.